Sorry?
You know, medical first aid is spoken about, and there are a lot of training centers and all of that. And but the psychological part of first aid is equally important in any situation, whether it's trauma, accident, whether it's a disaster, war, any kind of a situation. The psychological first aid needs to be parallel with the physical, medical first aid. And the good thing about this is that this doesn't have to be done by a professional. It can be done by any of us. All we need to do is understand what needs to be done. Whereas with the medical first aid, sometimes there are procedures which not everyone may be familiar with, and sometimes you may need physical procedures which only a physician is qualified to do. Whereas here, all we're talking about is really softening the trauma so that the person concerned, and the person could be a child, adult, elderly, anyone, the person concerned is in a space of being able to receive whatever else is coming in, whether it's treatment, whether it's help and support. So, of course, as a concept, this largely developed in the war fields, in areas where there is a lot of conflict and areas where there's a lot of violence. That's where psychological first aid as a concept developed, because there you could see huge numbers of people having responses which actually made the situation worse. So there were a lot of situations in conflict-prone areas where people could have actually escaped or done better for themselves, but they did not, because they just completely shocked. Yeah, they panicked and they made it worse for themselves, or they didn't escape where they could have.
Because they couldn't decide what next step they should take. They were mixed up, confused.
Yes, they were confused.
Because the situation was such.
Yes. Or even if you look at a situation where you're not personally affected, but somebody connected to you is affected, there again, a lot of times help is available around you, but you're not really sure of what to do and how to react and how to receive it also. If you remember situations like the Taj attacks, where people who were near and dear ones, they probably went through the physical attack, but the families went through the mental attack, and a lot of them, apart from running around trying to find the body and all of that, they didn't really know how to take care of themselves. So that's where this becomes equally important in terms of managing. And like I said, the good news is anyone can do it. There are just a few simple steps in terms of what needs to be done. The idea behind psychological first aid is just to ensure that the person is ready to receive the care that is coming in. That's all we are trying to do, just to ensure that the person is in a space of reception and not blocking that out, because otherwise if the person blocks and builds a wall or goes into shock, then it's very difficult to start getting the person out. Then you get into a situation where there is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder and all of that, which you don't need to get into if you intervene at the right time. So you'll find a lot of very detailed manuals on websites like the WHO and the National Child Care Center and all of that, where largely Western based but applicable in any situation. And you have a lot of these full psychological first aid manuals for free for download on the website. So do check those out. What I'll do is run you through the simple process that's normally followed in this situation. The first step in any first aid, whether it's physical or psychological, is to establish that contact, right? Establish connection. So, establish contact and comfort.
How do you do that?
In terms of saying you're not alone.
Say in a road accident, how do you react?
Okay. A lot of time with psychological first aid, the whole idea is just dialogue the way you would normally do, talk the way you would talk to a friend. So even if you're, let's say, talking to somebody who's a child or very elderly and shaken up, you're still talking in a normal tone, the way you would talk to a friend.
Maybe an emergency stuff time instead of them shifting to the hospital? Because
Of course, but in that process, you don't stop for psychological first aid and then go to the physical aid. You're talking of a parallel process. So even as you're taking the person to the ambulance, you don't want the person to freeze in shock on the way. Right? So all you're doing is trying to establish a sense of comfort and saying, listen, you're not alone.
You are looked after.
Yeah, you're looked after.
Somebody is with you.
Someone's with you. It doesn't matter whether you know me or do not know me. It's okay. I'm there with you and I'm taking you to a place of safety. And that's very important for that person to know that somewhere there is a sense of safety, even if it's a war-prone area, even if there are bomb blasts going around. It's necessary for that person to know that there is a possibility of safety, and my motivation is to provide you, take you to that place of safety. Now all of this dialogue needs to happen in a normal, regular, friendly tone without that sense of urgency. Yes, you will have urgency in your actions, but it helps to make that effort to keep the tone very normal. Sometimes just a simple hug helps, or just holding the hands of the person helps to say that, okay, we don't have to talk too much, we may not even know the same language, but it's okay, I'm there. Because sometimes that's all the person is looking for, the fact that
instill confidence.
I mean, the fact that there is another human being who cares, that's all the person is looking for, because sometimes that shock of loss is so high, and it could be the loss of a person, it could be the loss of a limb, and somewhere the person's feeling at that moment in time is that, oh, I have nothing or I have nobody. So here what we're trying to say is, no, there is someone, I'm trying to get you to safety, so just come along. It's okay if you wish to share, if you wish to talk about it, it's okay, but then don't prod. That's one thing that's very important to understand with psychological first aid. Please remember, it is not professional counseling, it is not psychological counseling. Okay? So don't get into that idea of emotional debriefing. It's, in fact, for a very long time before the whole concept developed, emotional debriefing was the standard method used to deal with trauma.
What do you mean when you say
Emotional debriefing is, let's say if I've gone through something and you're trying to give me first aid, you try to make me relive that experience. So you try to actually talk with me and ask me, how did I feel through that whole process? Am I scared? Am I angry? Am I lost? How do I feel about
in
the
this case it is not
process?
required.
Yeah, but here what we're trying to say is, don't get into emotional debrief, because there, firstly, that process can be cathartic. The person might just respond in a way that you're not equipped to handle. Sometimes in the process of emotional debriefing, the person touches the point of shock.
Now how does that happen? Just tell us.
See, a lot of the natural instinct when you go through something traumatic like an accident or something is denial. Somewhere the brain goes into that phase where you say, oh, just imagination, didn't really happen to me, I'm dreaming, or it's happened to somebody else, I'm just observing. So there is a natural sense of denial. Now, if you prod the person and get into emotional debriefing, the person will end up actually touching his or her emotion, which is real, and in that process might get into a shock. And not that the shock can't be handled, eventually it needs to be handled, and eventually the debriefing needs to be done, but we're talking of the first aid stage. All you want to do is get the person to a space of physical safety first. Stop the bleeding or stop whatever is the physical injury. So don't get into emotional debrief, because that might actually cause physical harm.
the case.
Yeah, it might worsen the case, because it might, especially if the person's had very severe injuries on the upper body, it's very easy to prod the person into a cardiac arrest. We don't want to do that.
Yes.
So don't get into emotional debriefing. Don't ask the person how you're feeling or what happened, and don't worry. We're not talking of any of that. This is just simple normal conversation about saying, it's okay, something's happened, but we are going into a safe space and I will take you there. Right? We're not really asking the person any questions at all about how you're feeling or what's happening to you. At the same time, if at all the person happens to start talking, and sometimes people do out of nervousness, don't react to that. Don't try to stop the person. Because your stopping will mean that the person suddenly realizes there's something wrong, and then there is an attempt to
Let it be natural flow.
yeah. So if the person happens to flow with that sense of shock, let it be, because that seems to be the person's natural mechanism in that case. It's all right. Then the body is equipped to handle it. That's a mode of release for that person. Let that be. But otherwise, as a matter of rule and a serious rule with psychological first aid, don't do any emotional healing. The idea is simply to have a conversation, get the person into a place of safety, and then get the person into a space of physical stabilization, where if we can get the person to lie down or
Take it to a hospital.
Hospital, any kind of stabilization mechanism. If possible at this stage, also of course get into the physical aspect of it in terms of a saline or blood if needed. If there's a physical shock or an injury, if you have something like arnica drops, those definitely help. Or if you use something like even rescue remedy, the bark flower thing, that helps. So any kind of stabilizing mechanism which will help the body relax, ease down. That can always help. If it's a case of extreme cold, even a shot of alcohol doesn't really, it seriously doesn't do any harm. It actually helps the person
you carry
stabilize.
alcohol with you.
Somewhere, wherever you can find it, most hospitals tend to have some stock where because
That is why it is called doctor's brandy.
yeah. So even just a little shot, just to change the person's focus.
That's right.
So get the person to a state of physical stabilization. Sometimes if there is no physical injury, this could just mean make the person sit on a chair or a sofa.
Psychological comfort.
No, don't counsel.
No, it's comfort. actually.
Comfort, yeah. So even hand a cup of tea, make it as normal as possible. Ensure that there is no heavy activity around the person. People are not running around or shouting. So take the person to a space of relative silence, as the case may be. And then slowly start the process of information gathering. Again, not deeply emotional.
Not inquiry.
Yeah. So we're not really talking about, who was this person and was he very close to you and what will happen to the family now. Not an inquiry, not an interrogation. Simple information gathering about
What happened?
what has happened. So here we're talking about asking questions like, are you physically injured? Where is the pure physical aspect of it? So that during this process, whenever you're able to get hold of a doctor, you're ready to give as much information as possible. So this stage is purely factual. We're talking about getting the person into conversation about something as simple as what's your blood group. Whatever information you can give very handily to the doctor. Or if possible, if the person's in a state to talk, ask if there are any allergies, if there's something that the person can or cannot do. Purely at the physical perspective, we're not talking anything emotional, because till the time the person's totally physically handled, you don't want to get into actually exposing the trauma. You don't want the person to acknowledge that trauma. After which we look at some kind of practical help. You could mean practical connections. So here is where, after gathering the information, we're talking about now starting to link the person, either in terms of calling up the person's family, friends, if there is a specific kind of a doctor that's needed, or you need some kind of blood group to be found. Then you start making the practical connection, because by this stage the person knows that, okay, something is being done about me. I don't have to panic about myself. I might still be mentally panicking about somebody else who's been there with me, but at least I know I'm okay. I will be handled. So at this point, just keep talking to the person. At the same time, parallelly start looking out for whatever practical linkages and help that you can find. In cases where you're dealing with children, childhood trauma, it's very important that at this stage you contact and of course the parents, but also a psychologist, or where you can't really find the parents of the child, some kind of a child care center or a helpline. Most hospitals have a child care center. You have a lot of these child care helplines that you can find. If you dial up any local helpline number like a Just Dial, they will easily connect you to any of these helplines in whichever place that you are in. So especially with children, please ensure that you connect them with some kind of a
Normally,
care professional.
younger children are accompanied by their parents or their cases.
Yes, I mean in cases where it's an accident or something small, yeah, you would have some family or friends around. But when you're talking of something extremely traumatic, where you find a baby alone or a child alone, and sometimes a child is in a state where he or she doesn't really know how to say where I live, he or she genuinely doesn't know where he
No, but
lives.
normally, the younger children are provided with the
ID
identity cards.
cards,
We can
yeah.
very
If you're lucky enough, great, because then you can make all the linkages fairly easily. In case that does not happen, please ensure that there is a child care helpline, especially with children, because beyond the first stage we may not be capable of professional help, and with children they need that professional help because it's very easy for them to freeze that memory. With adults, at least with a logical mind, we start analyzing and saying, okay, it's all right, not too serious. With children, they're helpless. And a lot of times they don't even know what has happened. Here, when you're talking the information gathering stage, children sometimes don't even know if they are hurt or is something going wrong. Sometimes mixed emotions, in the sense they're too shocked. Sometimes they genuinely don't know. Like with adults, we are trained to say that, okay, pain here means something wrong, or pain in the heart, palpitation means that there is a problem. Children don't really know all of that. So yeah, so with them they need childcare professionals who can actually very comfortably take them through that whole process. So with children especially, we ensure that you expedite and get them to this level. And then of course the final step, once all of this is done and there is someone handling the whole issue, at this point of course you should also have some physical care happening. Final thing is of course establish linkages with any kind of collaborative networks. Now here we are largely talking of situations where there is extreme trauma or disaster and the family is not around or you can't really contact. Some cases you might find the person is no longer in a coherent state to really help to find his or her family or immediate contacts. In such cases, provide the person with some kind of a network, somebody who will handle even if the person goes.
At that time, the police also comes in.
Yes. So if nothing, the collaborative network could be the police, because then somebody has to assume responsibility for the person in that state. Especially with minors, you need to be very careful that there is someone responsible because at this stage it's very easy for the child to be trafficked or kidnapped, getting into the wrong hands, and that's something that you don't want to do. And I mean, as shocking as it may seem, it's in a lot of these traumatic situations that children are trafficked. So that's why we need to be doubly careful if you're dealing with minors, that don't let them get into the wrong hands. So it's necessary that you have some responsible professional who comes into this stage. So all through this process, and like we said, it's a very simple process. Any of us can do it at any point in time. The effort that is needed is really to sound normal, and that's a big effort in that situation, because when you as a neutral person see that there is something wrong, the natural tendency is obviously to empathize a little too much and want to panic and be urgent. But here the first aid calls for that neutrality, to step back and say, it's alright, I'm not going to show urgency. I might probably in the background do something, but not show urgency in front of the person, but ensure that stabilization is at the core of the thing, and then gather as much information as possible. Point being, the moment you get medical help, you pass on all this information. They don't waste time to again talk to the person and figure out what's happening. This process, like I said, any kind of a stabilizing, non-medical stabilizing tool can help. Arnica usually helps with physical shock. Rescue remedy helps with anything physical or mental or emotional. Just a few drops of it. Arnica is normally externally applied, but rescue you can even give the person internally.
What is rescue remedy?
Rescue remedy is one of the back flower combinations. It's a combination of 5 flowers. Mainly used for situations where you want to calm the person
Emergency.
down. It's an emergency.
Sort of tranquilizer? Calming.
Yeah, like a tranquilizer. It doesn't put you to sleep, but it calms you down. It gets the heart rate down.
If you are no more
pressure.
agitated.
Yes.
Till medical help is available,
Yeah.
you are correct.
Yes, you calm and the body stops reacting to things unnecessarily. And rescue is something that in fact all of us can carry with us at any point in time, because it's a very useful remedy for anything and everything.
Or any traveling or
Yeah.
and now it is coming with oxygen also for high altitude. Rescue remedy with oxygen.
With oxygen.
Yes.
Okay, I've not
For
seen that.
high altitude and all.
Okay.
Where generally if you go to Leh
For the
Ladakh
Ladakh
and
and
for the
yeah.
mountain range and
Yeah.
all this. So when I went then I carried
Oh.
rescue remedy
I've
with
never
oxygen.
checked that out.
Yeah.
That's
It's a portable.
You also get these.
Oh, yeah, 10
It's a
ml.
small bottle. You get 10 ml. You get
Zoroastrian
30 ml.
pharmacy you get.
There are several of these Princess Street
even
pharmacies where you
it's
get.
in the form of liquid. Liquid as well
You
as
also get
this
those
tablet, but
pastilles.
liquid is good.
Mm.
4-5 drops.
Yeah. 4-5 drops. If you have a glass of water, put it in water and have. Otherwise, even if you have it directly, there's nothing wrong. It's basically the how back flower remedies are made is you put the flowers in distilled water, expose it to sunlight, take the flowers out, and the vibration of the flower is in the water. And then what you get in the shops is a very small proportion of that distilled water.
Here actually we get all diluted.
Yeah, which is they put I think about 4 drops of distilled water and 30 ml of
Alcohol based.
medicinal alcohol. And what you get here in Princess Street is often what is called the tincture. It's not even the original.
Mother tincture.
Yeah. So the tincture is further diluted. So they take that original which already has very little remedy plus alcohol. They further dilute it into brandy or something, and then that's. But it works the way homeopathic medicines do. So it's the vibration of it rather than the quantity that carries the potency. So you can give it directly. You can put it in water and give. If there is any physical injury, it's okay to even put it on physically. It doesn't really hurt.
It is effective. It's
Oh, yes.
very quite
Very the whole bath flower series is effective, but rescue particularly, it's a very good idea for anyone to carry.
very small.
The rescue is
It's
a
a
combination of
combination.
5 flowers. Yeah.
What are the
It's a
five?
pre-made.
What are the 5 major flowers?
Rescue has white chestnut, clematis, cherry plum. What else?
What is the role of
They're not
function?
agreement. White chestnut.
What is the role of function of each of these?
All of them
There
are.
are 38 total.
There are 38 different flowers in the bath flower remedy set. Rescue uses a combination of 5 of them. All the 5 are involved in calming down. So something like cherry plum is meant to ensure that it's typically used in isolation if you're feeling suicidal or depressed, or if you feel mentally you're going over the edge. That's when cherry plum sort of brings you back. So that's one of the flowers in the combination.
So what do you call it? Cherry?
Cherry plum.
How do you spell?
CHERRY, cherry, like the normal cherry you eat. Plum.
P-L-U-M-A.
So cherry plum, then it's got clematis. Clematis helps you ground yourself. If you're feeling floaty or flaky, it helps you stabilize. White chestnut again is a good remedy for stabilizing and tranquilizing, especially for people who can't sleep, insomnia or bad dreams. White chestnut helps a lot. There are 2 other flowers.
Very good.
But yeah, all of them are these white flowers which help to actually stabilize. So you can rescue, you can easily get.
Major one is cherry plum.
No, there are 5 of them, equal proportion. So that's something that you can always carry for anything. Even if you're, let's say, walking on the road and suddenly you feel this high BP, low BP, or suddenly you're feeling like coughing or something, it's only 2 drops and you're okay.
first you give us it and then apply for.
Yeah.
That's right.
So even
It's
for
not a
yourself.
solution. It is only till doctor comes.
Yeah.
Right.
In case of emergency.
In case of emergency,
Emergency.
something is better than
And
that.
yeah, in case of emergency, and
And it
especially sometimes.
It may psychologically also.
Yeah, it's sometimes a lot of our reactions are purely stress-based or
Right,
psychological.
right.
Then it heals it immediately. So you don't even need to get to that whole physical
Right.
trauma part of it. So somewhere if you feel that you're getting a little stressed,
But it's
have a couple of
aroma, like
drops.
aroma comes from the flower, that is also help.
bath flowers don't work on the aroma. It works on the homeopathic principle, on the vibration of the plants. But it's something that anybody can have.
No other side effects.
No side effects at all. You also get these not tablets. It's like these pastille. It's called pastilles. It's like you get these halls and all
Cough drops, cough drops.
that sort of a thing, but the softer form of it, like the chewy candy kind of a form. You get that as well. Normally that is used for people who some people.
In bath floor you get it.
Yeah, rescue you get in pastilles,
Rescue
not
you
all
get.
the others.
किधर मिलते हैं वो?
You get it here. What's that guy called?
Parsi Home.
Princess Street पे.
Parsi Home.
Banaji pharmacy.
Parsi में मिलता है
Parsi.
वो?
What?
Yeah.
नहीं, she says it's like a candy मिलता है.
Which one?
Rescue.
Yeah, first time I hear it.
हाँ,
You get it in pastilles because some people have objection to alcohol.
हाँ.
So for their sake, you
Yeah.
get it in. Yeah.
Parsi Home.
Parsi, you should get it in Parsi. Otherwise, yeah, I mean,
Because
there's-
otherwise, I thought it is only in two forms. One is the pills and tincture.
Yeah, pills is the normal homeopathic
Normal.
pill thing. No, but you get the pastilles also for people who have objection to alcohol. So.
But it's alcohol based. Even the
No, the pastilles don't have alcohol. They're also, in fact, the liquid form now, I think Nelson's or Healing Herbs, one of them is making it based in glycerine instead of alcohol. Especially because it's getting very popular in the Middle East and Islam doesn't allow alcohol. So for that market, they're making it glycerine.
Does glycerin help? Because it cannot
Glycerine
help.
is used as a preservative.
It's a base.
It
So
cannot help
instead of preserving it in medical alcohol, it's preserved in glycerine. So it's kind of substituting it. So you get that also. That's not very popular in India. I've not really found the glycerine
मैंने
based
सुना
ones
नहीं
here.
था.
No,
because of
because
Islamic
there's a
countries.
huge market for
Alcohol.
it's very popular in Israel, Turkey, and all these places where they don't want to have alcohol. So there they're using the glycerine based one. Here I've not found it locally, but I found it online on the Healing Herbs website. Very helpful. It's just that shipping that to India is very expensive. But otherwise you get the local ones.
Made in Delhi. Made in Delhi.
Made in Delhi.
Yeah. And all these rescue things will come from
Okay.
Delhi.
There was one there's this place in Mangalore where they're making those huge bottles, 100 ml ones. I mean, earlier you used to get only those 30 ml and 10 ml bottles. Now Parsi they have those big 100 ml
What do you call them?
Buck remedies. Buck remedies.
नहीं, Parsi तो whatever you want
Parsi
they make
you
it.
can- yeah.
Parsi and Zoroastrian
They give you, they just wait for 10 minutes and they can give you.
Yeah.
you go with the name and the
And just ask them for rescue and
Yeah.
tell them how much you want.
पहले तो 15 रुपए में था, अभी तो 50-60 rupees में छोटा बोतल.
Yeah. So rescue even beyond psychological first aid.
Yeah.
Good thing to carry anytime. Can be administered to anyone, babies, adults, in whatever state. It's an easy. And if people for some reason don't want to take it in, just pour it over them.
If you apply on skin.
Yeah. You can apply it on the skin. Just put a few drops on the skin. If it's babies, then probably mix it in water and apply because the tincture sometimes hurts the skin. It's not adults. So, yeah, those are general mechanisms. Otherwise, in terms of the general, if you want to go into the theoretical part of psychological first aid, it uses normally what is called that rapid model. Rapid stands for, this whole process is carried out in the rapid format. R starts with reflective listening. Now, Here the reflection is for the caregiver, not don't let that the patient or the person in the trauma reflect. Reflective for you as a caregiver to say, okay, what's happened now, what do I do, and how do I process the information, what's my next step. And very importantly, listen, don't engage the person in too much of a conversation. You have enough conversation to make the person feel normal, but not beyond that. Second step, of course, is parallelly you start doing the assessment in terms of you're doing all of this in the process. So what do you do with all that information that you get? P is prioritization. In terms of figuring out what do you want to do first. Sometimes it may be better to actually call the doctor first and then figure out the family and all that later. If there's a lot of bleeding, a lot of physical injury, it helps to prioritize the person's health first, and then the caregivers later can always be informed. They need not be the first thing. Sometimes in some cases you will find that the person's asking for a particular person. In that case, take a call, just tell the person that yes, you are actually contacting whoever he or she is calling for, but you make your own assessment here in terms of what you want to do first. It might be necessary to actually get the medical attention first. Then of course get to whatever intervention you can give, which could sometimes mean, if it's purely emotional trauma, just be with the person for a while after the person is stabilized enough, and if you think there needs to be some professional therapist or someone, after that get into that process of debriefing. Like here you can get it, eventually once you've stabilized and there is somebody who can handle the trauma, you can safely get into a process of debriefing. Before stabilization you don't want to get there. And the final step of course is disposition. Here again, especially with disposition, as in getting done with the whole process, with children you want to be a little careful with the process of disposition, in the sense, don't make them feel that they have been troubled. With children, it's very easy for them to carry guilt and say, oh my god, I put somebody through trouble. It's a very natural mechanism for them. Especially if they've been brought up in an environment where they've always been scolded or told that don't do this and you're causing me trouble. It's very natural for them to introject guilt, where you don't want them to do that here. So when you're disposing here, it's again with a general conversation saying, now you're okay, if you want me to come back again, I'll be back. And it was something to the effect of saying you've not caused trouble.
I've seen during Ganpati immersions, those children who have lost their parents, the policemen, they give them chocolates and make them feel happy.
Yeah, but children especially make them feel happy, because the moment they introject guilt, it stays for a lifetime. It's very difficult to then get it out as an adult. Because a lot of times the memory is so repressive that they don't even remember where it started as an adult. And then it's very difficult to heal them, because they get into a pattern of feeling helpless and feeling useless. You don't want to get them there. So even if something really bad has happened in terms of them losing their parents or something extremely critical, let them know that it's alright, it was not really their fault and they're okay. Have a general conversation with them. Particularly with children, we ensure that the tone is very normal. We say that even in normal situations, where even if a child has a fever, with adults when you have a fever or you're not well, you tend to lower the tone and talk in a very slow, gentle way. With children, don't do that. Just talk the way you would normally talk to them, because you don't want to make them feel that there is something wrong. Because the moment they think something is wrong, firstly they feel helpless, they don't really know what is wrong and how to handle it. And secondly, there is always that sense of guilt that I'm causing trouble to somebody here. You don't let them do that. So be very gentle in this process. Wherever possible, help the child, help to make the child feel helpful. So you can actually make the child do little things which can be physically done by the child. So something like, okay, drink the water yourself, or eat the food by himself. Simple things that always helps. Make the child feel that he or she is helping and not being a burden. So that's the general process of psychological first aid. You have those full, thick, large manuals which describe the same process, which are available online. If you go to the WHO website or any of these trauma center websites, you will find. In fact, there are some manuals which focus specifically on certain areas. So, psychological first aid for children, psychological first aid for war-prone areas, for rape, for various different types of trauma. Where the process, of course, is the same. It's just that the whole practical connection part and the caregiver finding part changes a little bit. So that's something that if you're dealing with some extreme disaster situation, you can take care of. But otherwise, the process is just really the same. That's it.
Thank you.